From Las Vegas, it's Dry Heat with Mike Davis.
Right now we're joined by the former number 7 world rank Mardy Fish. Mardy Fish, great to see you, meet you. I've played you, haven't played you. I wish I did. I've watched you many times in person. You're a tremendous player, a great representative, an ambassador for the sport of tennis when it comes to the United States. So it's great to be with you. But tell us a little bit about your love affair right now with pickleball. How, I mean, has it translated over? Because a lot of traditional tennis players aren't in love with the sport of pickleball. Tell us about this love affair you have with the game.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I wish we had played. Would have given me an extra win on the belt. No, I mean, look, golf and tennis have been a big part of my life, sort of growing up. And, I grew up in Florida, was born in Minnesota. I grew up in Florida. So outdoorsy type state. And so we played a lot of tennis, a lot of golf. In retirement, I try to play as much golf as I can. I do a lot of randomly. I played maybe the most non-contact sport in the world, and then fell in love with mixed martial arts. So I actually train and compete jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. And so I have a lot of other interests outside of kind of tennis or whatever. Pickleball kind of falls in that category where I really enjoy sort of going over. There's a lot of people that play out here. I live in Los Angeles. A lot of people that play out here, and former tennis players, guys like Justin Gimelstob.
Yeah.
I'll kind of go over, play with him, and we'll do certain games where we'll try and make it sort of more of a fitness contest than, because pickleball can be short point, or I guess it could be long points, but not a ton of movement. Certainly
Right.
in doubles, not a ton of kind of moving around and stuff like that. Obviously half of the tennis court is a full court. So we'll do something where we're not allowed to come to the net, and we'll just kind of play from the baseline, things like that. Makes it sort of fun. It feels like sort of an abbreviated version of tennis. A little bit easier probably, but certainly fun. And I understand why it's so popular. I mean, anyone can play with anyone. I can go out with my wife and play with, John Isner and his wife, and we can have a good match, and so it's it's a really fun game, keeps you young, and gives you a good workout on top of it.
Mardy, it's interesting. You had such a fascinating career, took down so many legends, guys like, Nadal and Andy Murray and all these types of players, even, being number 7 and your rise. But I think the Netflix documentary shed a lot of light on, a lot of the struggles, and you really became an ambassador not only for the sport of tennis as an American, but for mental health, which was an incredible thing. And it's fascinating. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I do want to ask you a couple questions about it, because I think you speaking out and attacking that stigma is going to be something that people carry and remember for a long time. From the documentary, and I definitely encourage everybody to go watch Untold Breaking Point on Netflix. It's really poignant. You're such a talented guy. I mean, you were just talking about golf. You almost took down Steph Curry in a golf tournament. So you're
well, he's a basketball player, so
I know, but he's a great golfer. I mean, he really is. But you're a guy who, growing up in Minnesota, even local news stations were doing stories on you at a very young age. You go to, at young age of 15, to Saddlebrook Academy, and you're really, taking more of a charge with your life. Tom, your father, was a tennis pro and all this stuff. So you start taking tennis seriously. But the point in the documentary that is the most interesting to me, as somebody who used to play USTA tennis and was recruited for college and all that, was the match in Newport, which I don't get it. And that's why it's the first thing I really want to ask you, is because to me, when you had this outburst at Newport, it's, you're more of in the 140s world rankings, and then you have this outburst after all these months of trading where you lost 30 pounds, you're hustling, you're bustling, you're at a whole different mental and physical standpoint of your career, and you lose this initial first set, and you have an outburst on a changeover with the opponent you're playing. And I couldn't believe that it was such a transitional moment for you, because to me, most youth juniors tennis players, that's the thing that that's the thing they developed before anything else, was the fact of the mental game of tennis, getting inside somebody else's mind before we're even talking about anything on the court. And it's just so evident, even from the documentary, your parents are such nice, sweet-hearted people, and I don't know, it hurt me a little bit, because it seemed like, wow, Mardy's such a good young guy, whereas all the guys that I would lose to in juniors were the guys that had that aspect down by fifth grade. You know, it was all about the outbursts and the stuff that's not going on the court. So that, you know, in doing all my research, that was the main thing I wanted to ask you, because it's so puzzling to me that that was the missing component that late into your life as such a successful tennis player.
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer is, like, I don't have that in me on the outside. I think everyone has that. I think every great competitor has some sort of fire on the internally. That specific event, he's talking about Newport 2010, you know, and really quickly I had lost a lot of ranking points. I had to have a knee surgery in 2009, late 2009. I worked my off.
More Dry Heat after the break. You're watching Dry Heat with Mike Davis.
It's so interesting, because if you're not a part of the tennis culture and world, I think you do think tennis isn't a physical sport. But, you know, me, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm an Eagles fan. Eagles celebrating, you know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. They're celebrating, you know, a parade today. You're a Vikings fan. You know, it's interesting. It's different kinds of stuff in the NFL, you know, extremely physical sport, but the mental toll. And that's why I do think for years to come, it's kind of like The Inner Game of Tennis, a very famous book. When we talk about, you know, A.J. Brown on the sidelines during this Super Bowl championship run, reading this book, Inner Excellence, I do think this is going to become a staple, this documentary, because it encapsulates the emotional toll of so many young junior tennis players in such a poignant manner. And it's heartbreaking watching you a little bit, because you were always such a gentleman type of guy. Like, you were a Nadal type, a Federer type, you know, Agassi, who's someone who's going to be a pickleball slam 3, another guy who is always like that. And I think a lot of people perhaps don't gravitate to guys like the Djokovic-ish mentality, because they possess a little bit more of, you know, for me, it was a kid named Max Rubin, you know, who all these guys in juniors, you know, that just have that edge where, yes, the strokes are there, the forehands there, they're tremendous talents, but they have a whole nother thing going on in terms of just isms.
They're almost willing to do more than you are to win those. Certainly in junior tennis, there's a lot of cheating in junior tennis.
Yes.
You know, there's not line
You're calling
umpires,
your own lines.
You're calling your own lines, and it's brutal. I have a quick story on the tennis where I was just like you, where like I couldn't do those kinds of things. I had a kid who was cheating me like crazy. It was just like 10-year-olds, you know, and I didn't know what else to do. Maybe 12-year-olds. I didn't know what else to do. And so I thought, okay, he had just gotten me again on another blatant cheat on a call and won the point off of it. And so what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to call his serve out. His first serve. I'm just going to call it out wherever it's in. So he hits his next point. He hits his serve right in the middle of the box. I catch it and say out. And I'm so uncomfortable doing this too, like, because this is not me at all.
Right.
I do not have this in me. Right. And I feel terrible, honestly, like doing it. Right. Okay. So I catch it. I think, okay, I got him back. Okay. We're even now. So he hits a second serve. So I'm like, okay, so it's a second serve, middle of the box. I hit it back, middle of the box. He catches it, calls it out. And I'm like, he got me. He got the point. I just got his first serve. So he even, so the right there and then I knew that I wasn't that type of I wasn't going to be that type of player to win at all costs, but I'll tell you what, and I never did it again on purpose. But that specific match and that specific time I felt like I needed to, and I may have lost a friend. Um Frank's a great dude. I respect his tennis game for sure. He's a super nice kid. But I didn't care in that moment. Like I just didn't care. I had to win, and I think tapping into that mentality was healthy. Was almost healthy for me in a way because um, I was sort of a very non-confrontational, shy away from sort of stress or shy away from things like that. Tough conversation.
Yeah.
And you can grow, pretty fast, kind of learning from those situations, learning from those, realizing that like, yeah, that's not you, but hey, you tapped into something that was probably fairly healthy for you
Yeah.
in the moment as well.
It's a nice thing. I think it speaks volumes to you. And we see the "I love you, Daddy" in the background. Your wife's in the documentary.
We don't have it doesn't come off right now.
Oh,
So
say, hey,
I do like it.
you
So
don't want it to come off, but I think it's a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
thing that to be, we listen, there's levels to everything in life and certainly
yeah.
levels to tennis. And it's a beautiful thing that I think you were able to stay true to yourself. And that's why I think it's so sad with the pain and the wear and tear, even after you have the heart aplasia procedure, and you're still dealing with so many of these issues. And I think it's because it's so evident you have such a good heart and soul, and for you to still get to that number 7 ranking, it's a really sweet thing. And my question in terms of excellence, it's like, you're a big sports guy as well as me, like, the Kobes, the Jordans, it's notorious. Jordan had no friends. Everybody hated Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
but he's the best. Do you think, and I'm curious being around guys like Roger. Roger, I think that's what was so special about him. It seemed like a lot of people really enjoyed him, even though he had that, excellence to him. Do you think, is it a prerequisite? Like, in order to be Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, is it a prerequisite to be, all in like you were that day at Newport, where you have this understanding that you're going to actually cross over to the dark side because that's how bad you need it? Is that
Yeah.
a prerequisite for
I
excellence?
think I think all of the guys that you'll mention that are like that there are a lot of individual sport athletes that are like that, but the ones that you mentioned, let's say basketball, Kobe and MJ, those are individual sport athletes stuck in team sports. So like there's
Huh.
a name a lot of, name the all-time greats, right? Like Tom Brady was such an
Right.
individual. Now it seemed like, I've never met him, but it seems like he was pretty well liked by his teammates, I think, but I bet he did, he is a guy that, there's these sports that these guys get guaranteed money, right? And like it's so hard, basketball, baseball, football to a certain extent, but they're still working for theirs for the most part. So it'll keep those guys out. But basketball and baseball specifically, there's such a culture, it seems like, to okay, well, we just have another game tomorrow.
Right.
And like for individual sport athletes or for football, let's say, like there's not a game tomorrow. There may not be anything worthwhile for the rest of the year, or in tennis or in golf, it's like we get only one bad day and then we move, you sort of, you don't get another day that week. You have to wait till the next tournament. And so I think a lot of, first of all, like we'll never have a guy. Roger Federer will be the most non-disliked athlete of all time, right? Like he's very well liked, right? Like we
Yeah.
all, in the top 5 of all time, right? But he will go down. He is Derek Jeter going into Fenway Park and and having 80% of the fans cheer
Yeah.
for him,
It's
like
a good
stand up and
analogy.
cheer.
Yeah.
And that is so rare in sports. I played a bunch of matches against him. I mean, specifically, specifically like Cincinnati. a couple big matches against him in Cincinnati
Well, you beat him
and
in
Indian
Indian
Wells.
Wells, right? Didn't you
Yeah,
beat
and
him at
Indian
Indian
Wells,
Wells?
where we're playing in, Cincinnati specifically, right? We're playing Mason, Ohio, so a little north of Cincy. That is like middle America, right? Like that is, I was born in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I am American through and through. And so that, if any place, would have been a place where they would root for an American player. It's like 85% to 15%
Right.
Roger, right?
Yeah.
And you just get it. It just makes sense. I'm rooting for him, right? Like play other players are rooting for him.
Right.
He's such a rare breed. We'll never see a player and a player with his sort of his style, the way that he plays, the
Hmm.
aesthetics of the way that he plays, right? It's very classy poetry. It's almost like poetry in motion, if you will. I used to always say that when it was Sampras would come up and do one of those like jumping overheads.
Yeah.
It was like sort of poetry, he's like kind of created that shot.
Right.
It's such a beautiful looking shot. Like Roger was a very beautiful style, the way that he plays and stuff. And then the way that he goes about and handles his business on and off the court is so rare. He is truly a genuine human. I always mess around with him on Twitter or whatever, just trying to kind of rile him up or rile his fans up a little bit. Like, I can't stand this guy, blah, blah, blah. It just couldn't be further from the truth. I'm sure 90% of them think I'm joking, but like, there are some that probably think I'm serious, but we won't see players like him. And then to have two more like in the same era that are like just as good or maybe even better. So it's
Yeah.
just, we'll never see that again.
Dry Heat with Mike Davis will be right back.
It's so interesting because you're so the opposite of an everyman, but you also encapsulate so many qualities that draw people to you because you have so many Midwest, just an average kind of guy qualities, but then you were number 7 in the world. So you're really not an everyman, but it's so nice to see someone like you succeed. And, to me, it's like your documentary and even this movie Challengers, because so much of youth tennis is the relationship you had with Andy, who's going to be at Pickleball Slam 3 at Mandalay Bay. I mean, leaving Saddlebrook, then you're living down the hall from him in his family's home. And it's almost like the family positioned you there to help elevate their son's play so they could, he could be friends with somebody who's also, a good challenge. And, so when you ultimately beat him after, going 0-9, and then you beat him, it really is, it's a Rocky-ish type of, a Rocky-esque type of feeling and an emotion, and it's a beautiful thing. But that's what so much of juniors is. And I think the narrative with Federer was that he was a maniac on the junior circuit. Like he was, the way you watch him now is not what he looked like as a young kid. From what I hear is that he was like throwing rackets, temper tantrums, a different kind of dude is what history kind of says. So it's an interesting thing. The good thing is we're not going to have to see, hopefully is the anxiety is not going to come out at a pickleball match, right, Marty? I mean, I hope not.
I don't think so. I think when they flipped a coin to have John Isner and myself on which team we were going to be on, and they asked me if I won the toss, what team would I want to be on, and I said not Andy's. That was my response. So no, I love, he's family. He's family. We go way back, whatever happens in, on the court or whatever. We got into it plenty of times, talking trash to each other under our breath. And we've competed and fought at everything, competed at everything. And he's family. And so I can't wait to see him. We really never get to see each other. He's over in Charlotte and I'm out in LA. So we spent Thanksgiving together this year or last year, saw his kids again for the first time in a while. His beautiful wife too. And so it's, we kind of went through life at the same time. He and I like he's, I think maybe 8 months younger than me. He's an August birthday and I'm a December birthday of 81 and he's 82. So we're fairly close in age. I got married in '08. He got married in '09. I had a kid in 14. He had a kid in 15. I had a kid in 16. He had a kid in 17. So like
Wow.
we kind of have gone through. I turned pro in '99. He turned pro in 2000. That kind of thing. And so we sort of went through all of those sort of life's challenges, life's whatever, traveling and becoming a professional at a young age, and making money and understanding what that's like, and being really good at something at a young age. Try not to be as cocky as you could possibly
Right.
be, and I'm sure we failed at that many times. But as we've gotten older, we've not necessarily gotten closer, but just sort of understood each other more, and understood that, like, he was as competitive as anyone's ever that I've ever seen. He was the type of guy that if you had a set that somebody had to play for your life, or tennis match to play for your life, you wanted someone like him
Wow.
to represent you, because you knew he was going to give everything he had on every point. He had that Nadal mentality. He had that Leighton Hewitt mentality,
Hmm.
where like he wasn't going to quit on any point. He thought he was going to, if he was down 5-0 in the third set, he thought he was going to win.
More Dry Heat after the break.
We have him to thank in our generation, James Blake and I, for taking, sort of taking all of the negative and positive stuff in the media. Why can't these guys win any more majors, or whatever? Why can't we win more majors? And Andy's like, well, I've won majors. I don't know. Ask them. Like,
Right.
that's not my problem. But he had to handle all of that as well, and he did an amazing job with it. So we're brothers that fight a lot. Not anymore, but we used to fight all the time, and we're family for sure.
Marty, great talking with you. We'll see you next time.
See you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Dry Heat with Mike Davis. Go to our YouTube page, Silver State Sports, to hear our complete interviews.